Imagine, if you will, a Mayflower wasp with relatives who signed the Declaration of Independence, contrasted with an ultra-loud, ultra-opinionated former New Jersey fitness personality. These two men committed in their convictions. As a matter of fact, I think one of them was convicted. Warning, everything you see and hear will most likely offend someone. This is The Two Rebels. Two Rebels.
Carrie Harrison here, part of the Two Rebels. The other rebel, of course, is Rocco Castellano. Rocco, how are you doing today?
Always doing great whenever I get to do something with you, Carrie. It's always...
That is exactly the right thing to say. Why? Because it's true. But part two, we have an extraordinary guy who's going to talk to us today. You know him if you have ever owned a television set. Even if you don't own a television set, you can catch him on here too. Kevin Sorbo. You know him probably most famously as Hercules. You've seen him in a bunch of different movies. He's also a storyteller and a documentarian, which is why we're having him on today. And Rocco and I would like to welcome you, Kevin Sorbo, to the Two Rebels.
Well, it's good to be here at the Two Rebels. And I know that we got a East Coast and West Coast point of view, apparently. And I'm actually in Florida now. I left California a couple of years ago.
I lived in Florida forever in the Tampa Bay area. Are you somewhere around there?
Really? We were in Tampa for the first year. My wife's sister lives on Davis Island there. And then we were renting up in, they call it Wesley Chapel, kind of New Tampa, North Tampa. And we were house hunting along there, but she wanted to try the East Coast. We're out here in West Palm Beach now. So we're taking our time, just doing some house hunting. We're going to end up in Florida. We've been here almost 2 years now, but we're just sort of debating where we want to end up.
I know this is all like inside conversation, but I had a great life in Florida and I left kicking and screaming, and it was only for work back when people had work. Remember those days? Long time? Yeah. So I left, but I lived in Hyde Park, right across from Davis Island, spitting distance across the bay there, walked up and down Bayshore Boulevard. Google it. You'll see what we're talking about. It's an extraordinary place. Yeah. Florida's an awesome place to live, and you pay no taxes.
No taxes.
What's not to love?
And they're going to raise yours in California to 16.9%.
Well, they have needs too. And by God, I'm going to be helping. Let's jump into the plot of the play here. I know you and Rocco had a conversation before the power went out and I joined you guys just now. You're putting together a documentary that talks about the police and what they do. And, you'd think it'd be easy, but it sure wasn't, was it?
No, I mean, I came on later. Kevin Jackson's the guy who did it. Kevin Jackson is African-American. He was the guy that did a lot on Fox at one time. He's not on there anymore. He was sort of just a guy that came in and did these interviews and on-camera guy on the road. But he brought to me to narrate the thing. It's an amazing job. It's nothing about, it's called Bleeding Blue. It's nothing about saying, aren't the police great? Aren't they awesome? Aren't they fantastic? Every job has a bad apple, right? Every job does. I mean, there's plenty of actors that I've worked with that are jerks too, but most actors are pretty good guys. And so what it does is show what they have to go to on a day-to-day basis and the things that happen in their lives. And I think people will be surprised by it, and I think people will be moved by it and touched by it. We've already had screenings a number of different places around the country, but we're getting out there in a bigger way. Go to bleedingbluemovie.com and you can get information on it.
And there's a bit of an overlap here that's was interesting to Rocco and I, apart from just talking to you. Social media, we talk a lot about censorship. We see this whole cancellation culture and all these other things going on. And even at your level, which is coming from the very top, nobody seems to be immune to the fist of Google, Facebook at all.
Very true. I try to post things that are funny. I try to post things that are factual and true. I do get political. Here's the thing. We're losing freedom of speech. And I find it weird that there's so much anger on either side. To me, it's like, why can't we just agree to disagree? I got friends who are atheists, agnostics. I'm a Christian. I got friends who are liberal, socialist. I'm a conservative. We're friends. We have great discussions. We go golfing, have a beer. We make fun of each other. We still have a good time. I don't get all these riots, all these lootings, all this anger people, shooting people for having a different point of view. It's crazy what's going on out there. And I think it's really, really sad that this country is falling down into a bracket of not being the United States any longer, which is very sad to me. Why can't we just agree to get along, how corny that is? But the reality is everybody's got difference of opinions. So what? Have a difference. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm here to sit there and go, this is my belief. What's yours? Okay, let's have a debate about it and have a good conversation. And then we'll go our separate ways.
Yeah, we're not missionaries, and we're not really here in the United States to be, converting people to like my belief system. If you believe, some of the stuff that I believe, I'm going to probably be a little more friendlier to you. But it doesn't matter if you disagree or don't disagree, because almost always there's people that disagree with me. I'm literally the most hated person in the fitness industry. So I have a level of like hate that is, a little higher than most. And I really don't mind. But, when you're telling me that I can't do something because you don't like it, what? This isn't the United States. And Carrie and I have these discussions about, because people used to rally around language, around cultural type of like stuff, so when people talk about multiculturalism, right? I don't believe in multiculturalism. I believe in bringing your culture into the American way, because there's an American culture that brings in other cultures. But if you want to bring in Sharia law or things like that, I'm not gonna tolerate a Sharia law, cancel culture, you whining about stupid shit. I'm just not gonna do it. So but you have also been like we were talking about shadow banned and stuff like that. And, in the beginning, it was really, really funny we did a segment about shadow banning. They weren't really shadow banning. There was a way that that the liberals and the Democrats were able to retweet or to submit your stuff for violations, and then Twitter would then kind of violate you a little bit.
I'm just going to jump in because it's just not fair to blame the liberals and the Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. I'm independent.
It's absolutely.
Well, it's fun, but it's just not true. I have yet to meet a Democrat with a hardcore, serious spine, a lot of energy, and I'm talking about the Democratic Party. I'm not talking about people who vote Democratic. This is a party of unfortunate, sort of withered hopefulness.
They're whiny.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. So they're not the people that are going to be able to pull that together. I'm just telling you, I live on the left coast. I live amidst this. And the best people can do is buy crystals and pray over them and maybe do this and surf and hope the gods bless them. That's great. But this is not a cabal of like really concentrated tech geniuses hell bent on disrupting your life, Rocco.
Well, then in LA, no. And Kevin, you can jump in whenever you want here. But in San Francisco, there are really, really smart people that are pretty evil in their thought processes, in this utopian, like type of like mindset. And, they are pretty smart, and they don't, and they don't like, the plebes, let's call them, or the surf class here over here. Anybody that actually works for a living, the technocrats don't like.
Well, I certainly have been shadow banned. I've been blocked on Twitter and Facebook. There are people that follow me every day. I could post "It's a beautiful day" and they'll ask Twitter to ban me for making that comment. It doesn't matter what I say. They could even agree with me, but they have such a level of hate towards me. It doesn't bother me. I laugh at guys like that because, you know, I mean, I travel a lot and you get all this hate stuff coming on. I don't really pay attention to it. People tell me about it. But I don't get these people coming up to me in an airport. I guess they're not brave enough to get in my face to talk about it one-on-one. All I get is people coming up to me saying how much they like Hercules, Andromeda, or any one of my movies. I've done over 60 movies through the years. So people will come up and say, please keep doing what you're doing. We love the family movies you do. Keep making movies like that. Hollywood's going to make the movies they want to make. But I've certainly been blacklisted from Hollywood. When I came out of the Christian conservative closet, so to speak, my manager and agent with ICM for years made a boatload of money off me. And they just said, nobody wants to hire anymore in Hollywood. So if it wasn't for independent movies, I wouldn't have a career. But we're talking about an industry that screams for tolerance and for freedom of speech, but it's a one-way street with them. I'm a victim of it, and I know plenty of other actors like Dean Cain and other people that have been victims of it as well. And I find it just ridiculous. I saw a rant one time by Ben Affleck saying, I'll never hire any effing conservative ever to work in my movies. And I said, well, how immature and insecure is that? That's ridiculous. I mean, that's such a little junior high school moment right there. And it's just weird. It's really sad to me that this is going on, but it's going on. To me, we hope we can find a bridge of some kind to get past this infantile attitude.
Well, I think there's no real bridge to that because you can't reason with unreasonable people, Kevin. I have come to that conclusion over and over and over again with my business partners, with Carrie. You know, sometimes, you know, if you're living in the bubble that is Hollywood, and Carrie lives right there. Like, I mean, he has to deal with these idiots every day. And I try.
But they look nice, and that's what matters.
What's that?
They're all good-looking people out there. Yes.
Yeah, they look nice, and that's what matters.
Yeah, but you know, that's sometimes the problem. They look in the mirror and believe their own hype, right? And every single one of them literally has to take handfuls of like Xanax because they can't live up to their own hype almost all the time. So when you have that much insecurity, that much intolerance for your own self-worth, then how can you have tolerance for anyone else? It's almost impossible, Kevin.
Let's go deep here with Kevin for a second.
Let's go deep.
He said something really awesome about having a spectrum of friends from A to X.
Sure.
And this is true of like smart, high functioning people. My suspicion is, and we see this with social media, is people go crazy when somebody's doing better than them.
Oh,
and you're right. And because on social media, they can punch up, down, sideways with complete impunity, total anonymity. It's like you said, schoolyard, who's the king of the castle? And so if they can just one up you at every possible turn, no matter if it's a good day, bad day, nice weather, bad weather, they're going to do it. But in real life, they really want to get to know you because then it's kind of courtier type behavior. Maybe you can, bless them somehow. So social media is deadly because there's no accountability for the guy that punches.
Yeah, was no question, and it's probably living in the basement of his mother, and he's 34 years old, and he doesn't like his life, doesn't like his job if he has one, doesn't like his relationship if he has one. I think there's a psychoanalytic sort of profile you come up with a lot of these people, and they attack you. Look, I didn't grow up with it. My dad was a school teacher. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. I remember powdered eggs and powdered milk as a kid growing up, but I also remember my father pushing all of us to work hard. All 5 kids, he said, don't expect handouts. You get a job. I started a job when I was 9 years old. For 7 years in my little town in Minnesota, I got up 6 days a week at 4:30 in the morning to deliver 80 newspapers in Minnesota's winters as well, okay, 20 below out there. So my dad taught all of us the value of hard work and appreciating things you're able to buy with your own money instead of saying you owe me or you owe me, the government owes me. The government wants cradle to grave responsibility for our lives. That's not the way it's supposed to be set up. That's the way it's supposed to be. our country was a capitalist country. It has moved away from that. There's no question about it. We're still there. But don't sit there. I'm in an industry that's capitalistic. You don't think Disney and Universal want to make money? Are you kidding me? And if you're lucky enough to become successful in this business, because trust me, it takes talent, luck, timing, and all whatever else. The stars line up. I was in a lot of different acting classes. Well, I was in 3 different acting classes for 6 years before I got Hercules. There were some amazing actors in there, and they still don't have their Screen Actors Guild card. So all these people, these Hollywood A-listers that sit there and get on the Academy Awards and they blast this and blast that and tell you F this. And I look at you guys, count your blessings. The classiest A-list guy out there right now, by far, is Denzel Washington. Mm. He's a class act, and he walks the walk, and he says, you know what? We need to be appreciative for the success we've had in an industry that breeds a lot of rejection and failure more than anything else. In Los Angeles, it isn't the city of angels. It's a city of broken dreams, and it always has been.
Well, and so many people that have gone from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Boston, wherever, and they go to LA to hopefully make it, right? All you see are just vicious, disgusting personal trainers, prostitutes, bartenders, and servers that have wasted their life on hundreds of acting classes, stupid ass commercials, but they're still an actor.
Hold on now. I'm one of the few guys I know that never had to work another job in Hollywood. I did a lot of commercials, and I look at commercials, paid very good residuals, and to me, it was, you're going on location, you're in front of the camera, you're talking, it's putting those miles on. So I'm grateful I never had to work another job. But you're not wrong, where I look at the guys in my peer group when I went out there in my 20s. I didn't know a soul, and I'm one of those guys, a little Midwest town of 7,000 people. I drove out there, didn't know a soul. But I went out there and said, I'm going to pursue my dream. So I don't go dismiss people going after their dream, but the reality is most people will not achieve that dream, and it's tough on people because the majority of the guys in my circle, the guys I always competed against, most of those guys are not in the business at all anymore, and they left 20 years ago. Even.
Well, because you worked. I would have to believe that when you went to LA, you went to every audition, every acting, and you worked your ass off, right? Just like. Like whatever people talk about, there's a lot of people that are jealous of my success or whatever in the fitness industry, right? And the reason why is because they didn't want to break their balls. They didn't want to suffer. Not one bit. Not one bit did they want to suffer.
I had a double major in marketing and advertising and business. And I say that I market and advertise myself. And a buddy of mine that I've known since I was 2 years old, we played football, basketball, baseball together all through college, all through high school and everything. He said, Sorbs, remember it's called show business, not show. So I always treated it like a business. And I would tell my manager and agent, I said, I heard about this casting or that casting. Why am I not in it? And I remember my agent one time said, Kevin, I got 100 other clients. I said, I don't give a flip about your 100 other clients. They don't care about me. You get me in that door and let me have the chance to be rejected. That was my mantra. Let me at least get in there.
I love it because, you can't be successful if you don't have the opportunity to fail. That's one of the biggest things. If you don't give me the shot, it's always so funny. I use all these kind of sayings, but you can't win the race if you don't run. If you don't allow me to run in the race, I have no chance to win. And that's why we really wanted to discuss things with you and to talk to you, Kevin, because you do walk the walk, and I was very anxious to want to meet you and to really talk to you on the podcast.
Well, look, I learned a very valuable lesson when I was in college. A couple summers I caddied at this private country club, and these guys were all loaded. This is big money, just outside of Western Minneapolis. And I was 19, 20 years old those 2 summers. And every one of these guys I would caddy for, I'd ask them, I said, how did you get to where you are? Because I had friends in high school. I knew they had money. I wasn't envious of that. That just motivated me. I knew we didn't have money in my family, but I had amazing mom and dad. They loved us. They pushed us. They supported everything we did. But I asked these guys, how do you become successful? And without anything being a different answer, their ultimate answer to start was, I failed, Kevin. And then I failed again. And then I failed again and again and again. And that really set me up to realize that failure isn't a negative thing. It's a positive thing, because you can learn from those failures. You can get rid of all the crap that you know didn't work and take along those pieces into the next act of your life and try to get it work the next time around. So failure is a good thing, but a lot of people just give up. They fail once and they just give up and they go, okay, somebody take care of me now. So
that's borne
I'm
out.
not going to feel responsible for those people. To me, I say, don't let anyone set your limitations. And unfortunately, too many people set their own limitations.
That's borne out by Thomas Edison, who famously said, they asked him, well, you know, how did you invent the light bulb? I mean, how did you do this? He said, well, I figured out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. And that first light bulb, which we all know, and it's just across from you in Florida, in Fort Myers, is still burning 100 years later, made of carbonized bamboo.
What?
Yep, still burning in the Edison house. He was neighbors with Henry Ford. It's still there. It's still lit up.
Oh my gosh!
And we can't have that now. You know,
no,
can't have a 100-year light bulb.
No,
but,
we got to keep buying stuff. We got to keep buying stuff. That's what we do.
Right. And I have to tell you though, you're so right about, you know, like the failing, but see, too many people when they're young, they don't understand failure. And that's why they give up, because when you aren't taught like I wasn't taught how to become wealthy. I had to really break my balls. I mean, it was like, fail, do this, get smacked in the head, and then, you know, keep going and then find my way, right? But there are certain ways to fail and then learn, because it's a good education process. Most people, like you said, they just give up and they get to do something they hate instead of understanding where to go to figure out their passion or whatever they're really good at.
True, which is sad.
Let's pivot for a second and talk about your documentary, because that is the plot of the play here in this expedition. I think most people would ask you this question if they haven't a million times over, but I've never asked it of you. What have you learned about the cops? Because you went in with sort of a supposition and you came out with a much deeper understanding.
Well, I know people who are police officers, you know, back in my hometown. I had buddies who became highway patrol or sheriffs and police departments. So I remember hearing the stories from them. Let me give you an example. In 2017 alone in Chicago, we all know Chicago has a huge problem. A lot of guns, a lot of people getting killed every week. There were over 4,100 shootings in Chicago in 2017. 4,100 shootings, okay? So what's that come up to? 12 a day or something? I mean, it's unbelievable, right? So how many involved the police officers? Less than 1%. So 99.2% of the shootings were mostly black on black or civilian on civilian. But what got the press? That 0.8% gets all the press. The cops are horrible. The cops are bad. I mean, it's amazing to me that we're in a time in our lives now where people want to defund the police department. Really? You want to really? I mean, like I just said, there's always bad apples. No one wherever you stand, no one agrees with what that idiot cop did in Minneapolis, okay? You saw that tape and you go, what the heck is that about? That's just stupid. But we react so quick to these things. And Black Lives Matter comes out and there's nothing peaceful about it. I mean, they call for the death of people. They call for the death of cops. They admit that they're Marxists. They admit they're communists. It's right there in the manifesto. They want to get rid of God. They want to get rid of education. They want to get rid of family units. It's there. But recently they took it down off the computer because too many people started looking at it. Do I believe in Black Lives Matter? Yeah, but I also believe all lives matter. So it's weird that we've gotten to a point that we're segregating ourselves even more now. We're creating more division and more hatred. And this documentary with Bleeding Blue really shows what the cops have to go through. Suicide rates in the is massive. I have no idea how much PTSD they got to go through. They have a lot of trauma that goes on. The stuff the bodies that they have to bury, the car crash scenes that come around, the shootings that come up. People have no idea what it's like to be a cop. I wouldn't want to do it. God bless that these people do it. But, you know, most of us would run away from danger. These guys go into it just like our vets and armed forces do.
I'm wondering, Kevin, you know, and you would have seen this like head on, but, you know, most people, you know, have an 8-hour, let's pretend that it was still the era where you had an 8-hour-a-day job, but you're not going in there to basically fight for 8 hours a day or go to war for 8 hours a day. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Likewise, as an actor, when you're feigning violence and all that, you still take that, your brain still takes that away as though that were real to some degree. Like PTSD is a real problem.
Yeah, I've done movies like that where I'm sitting there looking. There's one time we got to go in a Black Hawk helicopter. We shot this movie out in the southern Indiana. And I'm in the helicopter with the other actor. And I said, do you believe the stuff we get to do? I said, but what if this was real? Think about that. And it's not real. We know it. But if you're there and you're pretending it to be, I'm going, I can't even imagine what it would be like to go into war, to go into Iraq and Afghanistan and sit there and you're running down along this desert and bullets are zipping all around you. Good Lord. It's like unbelievable what these guys do to protect our country, to protect our freedom. And yet we have people in this country who are trying to make that freedom go away. And I go, there's plenty of countries you can go to. You want a really hardcore socialist / communist country? Go check out Venezuela, see how that's going. Go to North Korea. There are no boats going from Key West to Cuba. There's a reason for that, okay? There's a reason for that. And people just don't want to take the time to really think about it because they're just not educated enough. They just operate on anger and hate more than they operate on anything else.
Well, it's the reptilian brain too, because they're suffering, you know, they believe what's happening to them is actual suffering, right? They can't get a job because they go to college and for like women's studies shit, and then they go and they think that they should be making 150 to like 200 grand, and now they're making, you know, like $25,000 as a barista at Starbucks. You know, yeah, your life sucks because you made bad choices. It's not our fault. It's not the American way. Most of the time, you don't spend, you believed the hype. Yeah. You believed that a college education was going to, that you were going to pay $150,000, $200,000 for a college education, and it was going to work out. And most of the time, if you do stupid shit like that, it doesn't work out. It only creates debt.
You know, if you go to college, I've said this to other people too, get a real degree. Unless you're going to go into teaching, you know, why are you getting an English degree? Why are you getting a degree in 17th century art, French art? I mean, why do that? Get a degree in engineering, get a degree in any kind of business, get a real degree that you can actually work in and make that college degree pay off. Unless you're going into teaching again, then I totally get that. There's a play called Avenue Q. Have you ever seen Avenue Q? It's like the Muppets on crack.
Yeah.
Very funny. The opening song is the guy going down Avenue Q singing, "What do you do with a BA in English?"
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they say it.
Right I have one.
There you go.
Right.
But yeah,
and
okay.
Realize
you have one, but how many people? I know a lot of people that the degree they got, they don't have a profession that deals with that degree. Most people that I know.
Well, I've just realized I can just be a noisemaker. That's what it's good for.
No, but we were sold a bill of goods where you need a college degree to get a good job instead of, you know, going and becoming into apprenticeships.
Meanwhile, Gates and Steve Jobs both dropped out of school their freshman year. So there. Right.
And you go, what? And Jeff Bezos doesn't have a real, you know, all these entrepreneurs either have a business degrees or they have something that they did, you know, like the coding. Like,
they obviously had the smarts, but they had a drive too, and the drive is the most important thing. You have to once again, you go back, you're going to have setbacks and failures. But when people that I know have jobs at some company and they blame, you know, bitch about their boss, I'm going, your boss put in like a dozen years of $100 building up that business. And now he's got 1,000 employees, and you're going to bitch at what he's doing. He's giving you a house. He's giving you health and dental. He's got a job. I mean, it just drives me crazy. And that comes down to that envy thing again. I go, well, then work hard, and then, things will come out of that.
Well, and it's the same thing in like with the California mindset too. Like all these kids in California, they can't afford an apartment. They need like 5 people to live in an apartment. Meanwhile, they can move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, anywhere else in the country, and they can live.
No thanks.
That's what they're doing. And you know that, Corey. That's what they're doing. 200 people a day. 200 people a day are leaving LA County. They're going to Nevada, Arizona, Texas. I'm in Florida. Thousands are moving into Florida.
Well, they're finally doing that because it's getting so bad. There are people that don't want to live with the homeless in LA. That's why they're finally leaving, and in Central Valley, there's no more, almond groves, or there's no more orange groves, peach groves, or whatever in the Central Valley. So they have to leave. There's literally no work in California anymore.
No, it's tough. It's brutal.
And even Hollywood, like you said, almost every actor that's got a half a brain has literally left there. They live in Montana. They're going to Georgia. Georgia's the #1 place to film right now. So a lot of actors are moving out there. They got a much better chance of getting a role. Almost everybody from Walking Dead were actors that were based there in Georgia. Oh, really? Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely see. Well, didn't Tyler Perry actually build something?
Well, he's got a huge studio there. Got a huge studio.
Yeah, in Georgia.
I'm in talks with those guys right now about a couple of different projects. So. I got my own Sorbo Family Film Studios, and we're very busy putting things together. I've got another movie I'm going to be directing early next year as well, and just staying busy. I got 3 movies in the can done. We'll be out next year, and I just did a half-hour pilot. Based off a pilot we shot 2 years ago. We just shot 8 episodes. I was back in LA July and August filming 8 episodes of this new half-hour comedy that I starred in, along with Brian Bostwick. So that comes out in January. So maybe that'll get picked up. I just told him, I said, can we shoot anywhere outside of California? So.
Well, this is great. I mean, you're really cooking. And I love the fact that you're also telling stories like Bleeding Blue. And just as we're in our act 4 of our little Quinn Martin production here, remember how they used to do that?
Oh, yeah.
And then you had an epilogue after the final commercial.
Of course.
So I'm wondering, like, when we were kids, I grew up in the Midwest too, Chicago or suburbs north of there. You grew up in Minnesota. The cops were not, armed with military garb and howitzers on the roof and laser beams. They were just like dudes that told you to go home. Don't stick firecrackers in a frog's ass. Bad. I'm going to tell your parents. And boy, that job description has changed. What do you suppose has happened between then and now? Like, what is it with the mentality, not of the cops, but just of the world?
I wish I had the answer to that.
Question.
Because go ahead. I'm sorry. What was that?
I said, there's an easy question.
Yeah, there's an easy question. I honestly think it starts in our education system. It starts at home, probably first more than anything else. The nuclear family has been blown up. A lot of kids are being raised just with one parent, usually a mother. There's a lot of runaway, walkaway dads in there, and I really think it's important that you have a family unit with the kids, whatever that family unit may be. But I think they need 2 parents around. I think that a lot of parents just want to be their kid's best friend instead of being a parent, and they shouldn't be afraid to say, no, that's wrong. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do right now. I knew in California when I was there, I knew a lot of parents would have high school parties with their kids and let them serve beer when they're in 10th, 11th grade. I thought that was just crazy. I'm going, wow, we're watching them. I'm going, wow. And it's this whole thing about, well, I want to be my kid's buddy. I don't
I
know.
want those
I don't have all the
parents.
answers. I can throw that out and come up with a couple ideas. But and you talk about the cops. The whole thing with the police force now is they're forced to wear that. Just this last year alone, you see the riots in LA. I mean, on Santa Monica. I used to live in Santa Monica. They wiped out the whole blocks down there.
Yeah.
An area in Minneapolis used to hang out was just gone. And you look at that and you go, look how much anger. And we're saying, oh, well, looting is okay. It's reparations. I'm going, I just sit and shake my head at these things and going, what has gone wrong with our country? And it's just gone insane. You know, Walt Disney said back in the 50s, movies will influence youth. And you see the movies coming out of Hollywood, and I'm not a, you know, some guy that is a prude in any way, but they're very violent. They're very filled with anger and divisiveness, and they're just perpetuating that anger and hate. And kids in school are taught to hate America. You know, we got all these people from Mexico rushing our border. Nobody's rushing to get into Mexico. There's reasons to. They come to America, and in a way, it's like, okay, they wave the Mexican flag and they burn the American flag. I go, wait a minute, you came to America because of what America represents in terms of opportunity. And we, the people, have just really disappeared out of our Constitution. The whole idea of pursuing, you know, life and the pursuit of happiness is just going out the window right now. And I wish I had all the answers, and I really don't. And it makes me sad that, as I said before, that I see our country disappearing and falling into the hands of people that want to break it up. And you know, to me, it's like, my God, there could be civil war down the road. Who knows?
Well, but all the, you know, Carrie, to kind of jump on that question a little bit, because you know some of my views here, but you know, one thing about the cops that I just don't understand. I was actually listening to Joe Rogan and Colin Noir with a really crazy cool conversation, and they were both talking about how there are cities that are buying all this garb, all this technology, night vision glasses, basically tanks, you know, bulletproof Humvees and all this stuff. And they buy all this technology, but the people, the cops that have to use this, even SWAT, they're not trained up on it, and they're not willing to pay. So when they're saying defund the police, right, because some idiot like the cop that did that George Floyd thing, first of all, the mayor and the chief of police, they needed to get rid of that guy a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything about, because that guy was like a criminal. Yes, okay, but there is no reason to have the mentality that you can crush somebody's neck. He should have been gone. I blame the mayor. I blame the chief of police, just like I blame teachers for not seeing the mental illness red flags of people that shoot up the school. Oh, well, I didn't really think that little Johnny, when he said kill all teachers 17 times, would really kill all teachers.
No.
You know, so I think that the police, when you buy technology like, let's say, night vision glasses, I believe that the city needs to pay for all those officers, or, you know, training actual, because when you go to Las Vegas, right? I always tell Gary this, and I used to live in Las Vegas, and when you go to the Strip, you can see the high level of training these sheriffs and these metro cops have, because all they do is they are abused from sunup to sundown, and every single time you see them de-escalating, and that's just training. Yeah. So whenever you hear somebody's shooting, you know, like a cop shoots somebody, right? That is, you have to look back at where their training was. So because most people don't no cop wants to shoot somebody. And if you're a cop that wants to shoot somebody, you need to get out.
Yeah. So there were 9 African Americans that were killed by police last year. 9. There were over 80 officers that were killed in the line of duty. Where's the press on that? Nobody says that.
Nobody cares.
Wow.
It doesn't serve a narrative that's opportunistic.
Yeah, people don't know those numbers. They don't talk about those numbers. But hey, guys, I do have a documentary that one is available. It's out there, but we're still gearing up for a second go around here. But I have a documentary coming out November 19th. It's called Against the Tide. So I have your viewers go to againstthetide.movie. Pretty interesting. I spent 3 weeks in Oxford, England with John Lennox. John Lennox is an apologist. He's a retired math professor from Oxford University. He holds 5 doctorates, speaks 6 languages. We spent 3 weeks in Oxford, 2 weeks in Israel. And I'm on camera. I'm the narrator of this documentary, but it was very interesting to hear him through science prove God's existence. So I hope people check that out. Against the Tide movie. It's pretty fascinating. I think people.
I'll bet.
I think atheists, agnostics, Christians, anybody. To me, it's an interesting educational documentary, and it's also a great travel guide. You'll see Oxford and you'll see Israel, and they're pretty completely different places, but both very, very beautiful. And it was quite fascinating for me. I'd never been to Israel before. It was pretty cool.
What a great place to end. Kevin, give us the 411 on where people can generally go to explore all your stuff.
The best place to go is kevinsorbo.net. kevinsorbo.net. I got, for those Hercules fans, Andromeda fans, boy, I got the original scripts. I got books. I got all kinds of stuff. You can check that out. But you can also follow me on Kevin Sorbo official Facebook page, so you can rant on me there. Or go to Twitter. Twitter's @KSorbs. Losing my voice. @KSorbs on Twitter. I post a lot.
KevinSorbo.net, KevinSorbo.net. We'll also put up lower thirds. You can just follow him and chase him down.
Support our vets who are passed away. Support our vets, okay?
The Two Rebels. The Two Rebels. That's the number 2. The2rebels.com. Don't actually spell it. The number. Got it? The2rebels.com.